In this recording, we'll create the 2-inch union. You can see that it consists of a pipe, which you already know how to make, and essentially another pipe around it with grooves in it. Since we don't need to redo this first pipe, since you already know how, I'm just going to hide that piece of pipe. Now I have to show you how we did this. Remember, we really have two parts in here where I've hidden this part, and we also have this smaller pipe. So I'm going to go ahead and hide this again. And now what we have to be careful of, since we want to deal with this part here, we have to make sure it's the active part. So if I click on this right here and right click it, I'm going to toggle it and make sure that it's the active body and not the other piece. Now we want to get those pockets, those grooves on here. So let's start by looking at this front view. And what we really want to do is just create a little circular pocket here, and then we'll replicate that around this circle and we'll get what we're trying to get. We're looking at the XZ plane here, as you can tell by looking at this down here if you don't remember. So we're going to create a sketch and put a little circle right there. So let's create a sketch in the XZ plane. And we want to put that circle right on the edge of our part. So let's create a circle and we'll stick it right there. And we're going to change the radius in a minute. We don't want to cut out the entire part. So let's set the radius, a really tiny radius. We'll just make it 0.1 inches and see what that looks like. And if I enlarge this, you can see this is what we're going to cut out of our part. So that looks good for right now. And now we have to make the actual pocket based on that sketch. So with body as the active object, we're going to create a pocket. And we're going to make the length of it, just so we know it goes all the way through, we'll make it at least an inch and click OK. Now we have just the one pocket in there and we want to replicate it around the entire circle. So with the body still active, we'll click this icon here, which is a weird looking icon, is create a polar pattern feature. So let's click it. And which object do we really want to rotate around? We want to rotate that pocket around. So let's click OK. And we want it to go 360 degrees. And how many times do we want it to go around? Right now it's just 2. Let's make it 24 times. And click OK. And you can see we're getting really close to what we want to have. Let's unhide all the parts and see what we're dealing with so far. So we will show all objects. Now sadly, this starts to show all these XYZ planes and axes, and we don't really want to see all that. I'm going to show you how to get rid of those. We go in here, and these origins, remember, if we just click the space bar, they'll go away. So we'll go down to the other origin here in this body, and we'll hide it as well. We don't need to see these sketches anymore, so we can hide some of them. Just to get them out of our way, if I can find the right ones. And now we want to do one last thing. We want this nut to be in the center of this pipe. So let me show you the ways we can do that. Number one is to use, the transform option. So this is the body we just created. If I right click it, we can transform it. These arrows let us move it in that direction, or we could move it up. I shouldn't have probably done that. And the circular things let you rotate it, but I don't want to mess this up too much right now. we could actually stop right here, and it's probably pretty good. We could look at it at all the views. Looks pretty good there. Looks pretty good there. We could look at all these things. We can see it's probably not exactly centered. There's more space here on the right than there is on the left. So I'm going to show you another way we can move this body part. Down here, I know we based all these on the origin. And so I know this pipe that we want it to be centered on is 3 inches long. We want an inch here, this is an inch, and we want another inch. Well, right now the position of this body part that we have selected here is 0.936 inches in this direction. Let's make it 1 inch. And you can see it shifted over. So now that's another way you can set this, is by using the properties. So the body has an X, Y, and Z position. And the last thing I wanted to do was to recolor this thing. So if we're in this body and we look at the view instead of the data tab, we can set the shape color, and by clicking here we can make it any color we want. Let me just pick one here. It doesn't really matter for right now. And we get the color of that. Now really there's one last step we want to do. We want to combine this whole thing into one body, not just this piece of it. And we want to color the whole thing turquoise. So I'm going to get rid of this color for now, and we're going to combine this into one big combined body, and we'll turn the whole thing turquoise. We're in part design. We're going to click this icon here to perform a Boolean operation on 2 or more bodies. So we'll click this, and it wants us to add a body. And one way we can do it is to go over here and click one of them. I didn't like the way part design was working. There is a way to do it that way, but let's use this part workbench and do it a different way. If we go in now to this icon, which is to combine 2 shapes, we see this dialog, and the body's selected and the body 1, those are our 2 pieces, and we want to make a union of those. So let's apply that and see what we've ended up with. We've ended up with this fusion, which is the combined thing. And now if I right-click this and transform it, we'll actually be moving the entire body. We'll also be able to color this entire thing in the turquoise color. So if I go down here now for this entire fused shape, we can go down here and turn it into, let's say, some kind of turquoise. And last but not least, if we wanted to rename this part, we could simply rename it as a Union 2 inch. Oops.